And welcome to the Halifax Board of Selectmen's meeting on this date, Tuesday, November 12th. Selectman Tom Millius will be away. He'll be attending tonight. First thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you want to join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just remind the board that we are being taped by Area 58 Community Access Media for later broadcast on the public access channels and for YouTube.
Thanks, Charlie. All of us attended the regular session for August 27, 2019, September 10th, 2019, regular session, and September 24th. Any additions or anything to the?
You want to move them as presented?
Yep. Second, all in favor? Aye. It's on you, young man.
Okay. I move to affirm following warrants and commitments. Oh, it's on that one. Oh, that's
I'm sorry?
that one. What do I do?
For which one? The last one that we did, that was going to be, that was the approval one. Are you talking about?
Oh, this is affirm approval.
Yeah,
Okay.
affirming, yeah.
Never mind. I move to affirm the approval of the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 37 for $389,342.91. Vendor warrant number 38 for $73,089.88. Withholding warrant number 39 for $133,445.45. Vendor warrant number 40 for $71,516.77. Ambulance commitment from October 14th, 2019 to October 20th, 2019 for $31,483. Ambulance commitment from October 21st, 2019 to October 27th, 2019 for $34,529.07.
I'll second those. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I move to affirm the approval of the following bills. Harry B. Harding and Son for $1,894.
Attorney, that was the one we can. That was just regular services.
Okay. Attorney Lawrence Mayo for $2,496.88, and Michael Gilman Esquire for $2,377.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 41 for $389,290.81. School warrant number 42 for $472,892.29. Vendor warrant number 43 for $69,049.20. Ambulance commitment from October 28th, 2019 to November 3rd, 2019 for $47,832.55. And the mobile home park fee number 11 for $5,160.
I'll second those. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, I move to approve payment of Selectmen bills dated November 12th, 2019. Insurance for $1,668. This is to the MIAA Property and Casualty. It's a workers' compensation audit invoice. Town Hall electricity for $892.45. And $70 from the law account for the LexisNexis subscription, it looks like.
I'll second those. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
All right, great, thanks.
Charlie?
Recycling abatements, Bill 1734. Developer had purchased a pre-existing house that is livable but needs work. The municipal lien certificate was done in July before the recycling bills were sent out, and then the bill was sent to the previous owner at that address. The bill bounced because nobody was home, and then was sent to the developer's address. I don't recommend an abatement, because it's likely the house will be sold again and someone will move into the house this fiscal year.
So you're saying the developer was aware of the bill needed to be paid?
Right, but I don't know the timing of when the
When he
developer got
received
the
it.
bill, because the original bill, when it would have been sent out the beginning of August, was sent to that resident, to the address there, and then with the resident's name. Nobody was there. It bounced back to the treasurer's office. Then they reissued the bill and sent it to the developer.
Okay. Any discussion?
And then on recycling abate, well, I guess we need a vote, I'm sorry.
I will move that we deny the abatement for Bill 1734.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then for Bill 1351, the house has been raised, so I don't think there'll be recycling there.
Okay.
So I'm recommending abatement for that bill.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board of Health vacancy. As far as I know, there was only one applicant, Steve McFawn, who has attended Board of Health meetings previously. I've set up an agenda appointment for Tuesday, December 10th at 7:45 for the Board of Health and Board of Selectmen to hold a joint meeting. The Board of Selectmen to interview him, and then for the two boards to hold a joint vote on filling the vacancy.
Okay.
Just an FYI, there's nothing that we'll need to do tonight or 2 weeks from now. On the planning board vacancy, in addition to Alan Diaz, who had previously sent in a talent bank form, Timothy Bobrowski and David Mascio had submitted talent bank forms indicating their interest in serving on the planning board. The planning board has or will interview all three of the candidates. I'll set up an agenda appointment again the same date on December 10th, starting at 8 p.m. I'm leaving 10 minutes per interview for each of the candidates, and then we'll have on the agenda to include a joint vote of the planning board and the board of selectmen for that evening to fill the position. In both of these cases, the vacancies are going to be filled until the next May election, May of 2020. Then either the term automatically expires and the person can run again, or it's filling the rest of the term and that person again can run for the rest of the term at the May election. On the Council on Aging Director recruitment status, position's been advertised in the usual locations along with the Massachusetts Councils on Aging website. Deadline for applications is this Friday, November 15th. Schedule is, obviously, as I mentioned, the deadline is going to be Friday. We're going to get all the applications scanned and sent to the members of the screening committee. Then on Tuesday, the 19th, and or Wednesday, the 20th, the screening committee is going to be meeting with the library on Tuesday and Town Hall Wednesday to review resumes and decide which candidates to interview. The following week, on the 25th of Monday, and then on Tuesday, November 26th, depending on how many candidates they're interviewing, we'll hold interviews at the Council on Aging, time to be determined, and we'll obviously have to get the building opened up for the Council on Aging interviews, but we can get that done. That night, on the 26th, the screening committee is planning on making recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for the second round interviews, meeting with the board. They'll get that information to me. I need to work out with the board what date they'd like to do these second round interviews. Monday the 2nd, Tuesday the 3rd, or Wednesday the 4th. One of the things is that we've tentatively, if the board wants to move ahead with holding a public forum on Bud's Goods, is to hold that public forum on the 3rd. We can move that date, we'll talk to Bud's Goods about that, or the board could pick one of the other nights. This can wait until the 26th. The screening committee is going to be meeting that night and making recommendations, but at the same time, the board can make a decision. But, Tom will be back, can work out the calendar.
I think I like to wait when there's a full board.
Yeah, that's fine. But it'll be that week, and then my expectation, unless the board does something different, is the board will hold those interviews that week. The board's next regular meeting is the 10th, and the board could make a decision on the 10th in terms of...
Sounds like a plan.
At this point, we've had 8 applicants from the first go-around have indicated interest in reapplying for the position. This includes one of the people interviewed by the screening committee originally. There's an initial 5 candidates have applied, and as I mentioned, we'll have all the applications scanned and they'll be sent to the members of the screening committee at the end of the day. And that paragraph didn't, I didn't need to like that. So, that's already old history there. Ambulance abatements, financial hardship. The board received 2 requests for ambulance abatements due to financial hardship. While the board does abate ambulance bills in mass upon the recommendation of the fire department, in fact, we'll have the ones for October later tonight, the board doesn't have a procedure or criteria to abate bills on an individual basis based on income or on assets.
And we normally wait until we get a request from the fire department of the abatement or not.
So what happens is the fire department will go through its collection procedures. At some point, they'll request that the board abate those bills. My recommendation is for the board not to abate the bills, but to notify the individuals why and indicate the bills might be included in a group of bills the fire department recommends be abated once the fire department's concluded its collection activities. Individuals should also be told that they remain eligible for emergency services no matter what the status is of their previous bills. In the sense of, simply because someone hasn't paid a bill on a previous ambulance ride, we're not going to respond to their house. We're going to respond. We're going to give them, if they need the ambulance service.
So we got a bill collector riding with the ambulance, and if they don't pay the bill at that time, they can't be
They'll
swayed.
take cash or checks right there, or maybe even credit. I don't know. I'll have a little swipe box there. If that's okay with the board,
I would move that we follow Charlie's recommendation on the not abating of the bills until such time we get a recommendation from the fire department.
send the accompanying letter.
Yeah, as long as the individuals know that they're still eligible for the services.
So if you vote, I heard a second, I heard a motion.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Thanks. Bridge inspection, Power Mill Brook, Hayward Street, Mass DOT had sent the town its latest inspection report for this bridge, which is in poor condition and should be repaired as quickly as possible. The highway surveyor has been notified. The challenge is he's devoting money to the Pine Street Bridge now, and the cost for that work, including the engineering, is going to be about $1.2 million.
I still can't believe it's gonna cost that much to do that short span of bridge.
So there's money available in his accounts for Pine Street, though it would mean some road paving projects are going to be delayed. This would be a project price similar to Pine Street. He's going to may have to restrict access on the bridge by Jersey barriers, just like he did for Pine Street. I mean, there's nothing immediately he can do about it aside from that. He'll have to engage the engineering company to come out with a plan for the work there.
Well, there's very little we can do about this tonight. It's up to the highway surveyor.
But the board gets the report. I forward it to Steve. I always try and make sure the board's up to date.
Thank you.
Request for the library. The estate of Sally C. Simons has a request for the Holmes Public Library for $32,000 for general purposes, including computer services for elderly people.
It's awesome.
Excellent. The library and the town account have been notified, and the funds should be sent later this year. Rufus the dog. The court decided, along with a number of other stipulations, to ban Rufus from Halifax. Unlike the town, the board that is, I guess the court feels they have the prerogative of banning dogs from municipalities. So that's what the judge did, even though the town can't do that. And there are a number of stipulations and such, and it did state that any violation of these orders would constitute grounds for the court to schedule civil contempt proceedings.
I know I'm not trying to be funny, but did they put a bracelet on him so we know when he crosses the border?
Well, it only helps if we put an electric fence on the border, too. I don't expect the town's going to have any particular interest in appealing the decision. $4, we're going to be talking.
It's
$7.45?
$7.45.
Okay, so $7.45, we have, first of the 2 revocation hearings. This one actually is sort of a good news situation where Twin Lakes Liquors is now fully paid up on its back taxes. That was helpful by the change of ownership for the license and the property. So if the board would vote to conclude the hearing and vote not to any reason to revoke or suspend the license.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Four Daughters, the company provided an official notice that it's no longer interested in purchasing the property on River Street. This is the same area that Bud's Goods is interested in. They will not be pursuing any licenses, etc. in Halifax, and this also terminates the host community agreement. Just to put the board in notice, Current Oil is going to be coming in at some point. I don't have any paperwork or anything that's come in yet. Pam, I was on vacation this last week, but nothing's come in to the office so far. But I've been told by the building inspector and fire chief then we should expect a request for a change in flammable storage license. One of the things is in terms of the amounts. The other is, I think, the original storage license was for underground storage tanks, and these would be above ground. That's going to require a normal public hearing, notice of the butters and things like that for flammable storage. And what I'm doing is I'm not wanting to have Croydon be prevented from doing, if they're a legit business, they should be able to get the oil tanks in.
And just make sure
But
everything
make
is
sure
done properly.
that their rights are protected and those of the abutters are protected. So when the paperwork comes in, we'll get the hearing scheduled and such.
Okay.
Aldana Road with a land swap. DCAM is working on the language for the Article 97 legislation that would have to be sent into the state legislature for approval because it means, at least for that sliver of land on Aldana, to be transferred to the town. They've got to walk that through. Fisheries and Wildlife has sent a draft agreement for the sale of the parcels. The one was marked A and B from the town to the Commonwealth. I forwarded that to Attorney Mayo for review. And then Plymouth County Commissioners are holding the required public hearing on November 14th here, along with the rest of the regular meeting for the sale of their interest to the town in parcels A and B. So things, the gears continue to move along. On the Gator special legislation, Senate Bill 2393, incorporating the request by the town to allow Mr. Gator to serve as a special police officer, has been filed. The bill has been sent to the Committee on Public Service. There's no hearing yet that's been scheduled.
Charlie,
Yeah.
when do they have to get that? Do they have to get that done by like December 15th for this year?
It used to be that every single year was a different session. And now, I think it was like 6 years ago or so, the state legislature decided, wait a minute, we don't want to have to go through and file 5,000 bills again. We'll just continue everything. So even though they'll go out of active session for about a month and a half, I think it's Thanksgiving week onward until the beginning of January, they'll get very little business done. All the bills that are in the hopper, including this one, including whatever that Article 97 is for Aldana, will stay there. They don't have to be refiled, restarted, everything like that. They'll meet then in active session from the beginning of January to about mid-July, then they close out for the rest of the year, unless there are measures that may receive unanimous consent. Let's say the vote all it requires is people stand there and say, okay, aye, great. The other 160 or other 40 people don't have to be there.
Okay.
Joan Pierce asked me the same thing from Fisheries and Wildlife, and I went back and looked.
Okay.
And that's what we won't have to start the process all over again on January 1st.
Okay, I just didn't know if we were
Yeah.
gonna have to vote again and all
No,
that.
I understand. I think, as you pointed out, I think years past, that was the case. If it didn't get done within a calendar year, you had to start all over again.
Okay.
But, so vehicle for civilian use. We've had that topic come up before. I know Tom, we may want to carry this over for 2 weeks, and I know Tom has a particular interest in this, having been building inspector before, and serving right now on the Board of Assessors. But the concept is, take one of the surplus police vehicles, keep it rather than trade it in or sell it, and make that for use by people here at Town Hall.
If it's feasible to
Right.
use it.
Right.
We don't want one, we have to tow every place it goes.
Right. So the assessors are interested in using it. The upside for employees is basically they're taking much less of their own risk on this, in that for insurance policies, if something happens to their vehicle while they're using it on behalf of the town, their insurance has to pick up the cost first. Then if its limits are reached, then Meyer would come in. But there's always a deductible, for instance, and also their premiums might go up in case they were using their vehicle and their vehicle got damaged or anything like that. Whereas with the town vehicle, they don't run that risk. So if the board wants to do something with this, okay, now I could do that, or we could just hold this over to the 26th for Tom to be here.
I'd much rather wait.
Okay. Could do that.
Gordon, that's fine.
I don't know if the board, I haven't received any information from the Commuter Rail Communities Coalition in the 3 weeks since the last meeting. I'm going to drop this. I don't, unless they come back and ask for a letter of support. Nothing happened with that, so. Amanda's Estates, just an update, so the ZBA by a vote of 3-2, but you need 4 votes for a special permit, rejected the request of Amanda's Estates for a special permit for the proposed multifamily development. Decision letter is being drafted and will have to be filed by next Monday with the town clerk. Site plan review is still with the planning board, and that's going to resume on November 21st at the planning board meeting. Just wanted to
Okay,
get on the record for the
it's
board.
7:50.
And we are at Davis Automotive and their revocation. I had a good news from the collector's office. Davis is continuing to pay down their motor vehicle excise tax. They're up to date on their property tax. So my recommendation is the board continue the hearing to 7:45 on January 14th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Getting back to my notes.
ISO rating?
Yeah. So ISO is, I don't know if it's a nonprofit, but I believe it's paid by the insurance companies. What they will do is review fire department staffing, hydrant networks, what equipment is in existence in the community and such, to produce a rating for fire hazards in each community, in a sense of the ability of the community, if there's a fire, to deal with that situation. A rating of 1 is the highest, a rating of 10 is the lowest. And what's happened is the latest review moved Halifax from a 4 to a 3. The fire chief wrote to say that he thinks it's because of the staffing changes and the well-maintained fleet of apparatus equipment, also because now we have the regional dispatch network, which is probably a higher capability than what we had running a single, and then also the water department with their hydrant network.
So it goes from 1 to
10,
10.
1 being the best,
So
10 being
we're
the
just
worst.
above 75%.
Right, so in fact, what the chief wrote to me is that about 1 in 8 communities has a rating of 3, 2, or 1, out of the, I'd say, 40,000 communities across the country. So we're in pretty good company on that basis.
Does that affect the homeowner's insurance?
Yes, it should, in a positive way, in the sense of if the insurance company is going out and looking at the ISO rating for Halifax, they should take that into account for property insurance.
Okay.
I don't know that how material it is,
A
but
penny or two
yeah,
on the.
but you know, it's better than going the other direction. Cybersecurity grant, the town's been selected to participate in the program. This is a state grant. This will include cybersecurity training and assessment and simulation tools available for all employees. I wanted to congratulate our IT specialist, Cesar Claro, for obtaining the grant. This was a competitive program. Not all the communities got it, so it's well to get that for us.
Well, kudos.
Housing Authority vacancy, Marguerite Pajolte, I think, had filed a talent bank form indicating her interest in serving on the Housing Authority. I forwarded the information to John McEwen at the Housing Authority. Will just as with the Board of Health, and the Planning Board will need a joint meeting of the remaining members of the Housing Authority along with the Board of Selectmen to fill the vacancy. Eventually, I'm hoping to hear from John, and we'll get a date and time set up. I'll make sure John's aware of our meeting schedule, that we've got the 26th, we've got the 10th. The board may have a special meeting. I'll talk to the board later when we're doing our scheduling, but we may end up with a 5-week gap because of where the Tuesdays are this
Time's
year.
passing too fast.
Dog bites dog. We had an incident on October 31st on Colby Drive. A dog was attacked by another dog. The owner of the injured dog did not ask for a hearing. Does the board wish to hold a hearing on this? I know when we
What
had
did
the
what did our dog officer say?
she didn't really make
She
it.
didn't really make a recommendation, she just wrote the report.
Yeah.
When you do the, I think from what I can tell, I think I read it that, both dogs were pretty okay.
Do we have any information on whether or not there was any cost to the person involved in this or anything?
Chiefs, no.
Chief?
Yeah, there was some medical bills, and I believe the owner of the dog that did the attacking was willing to pay the medical bills because I guess they're friends. So it didn't seem like they had any intentions of asking for a hearing. They were kind of more.
So they've settled it admirably among themselves.
Yes, that's why Dick Noreen didn't ask for a recommendation. Make a recommendation.
She does keep track though that the incident happened with the dog that
Oh, yeah.
did the biting, so if it happens
Oh,
again.
yeah, the dog, the bite was on scene. She had She got receipts for all the medical bills for both dogs. So she has all that.
Okay.
And, everything's in the log, so if she ever pulled, if we had a
If
similar
there's another
incident.
incident, then we
Okay,
have it now.
that's why I was asking.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because it's one of my few things that I hate doing is dog hearings. I'm sorry, people hearings.
Yeah, we'll ban them from doing
Ban them from town, no.
111F leave, the police chiefs asked for a medical only, 111F for Patrick Donnelly, since 111F status. This was an injury for October 4th, 2019, so it's medical bills only, so I'm recommending the board approve his status for that.
So moved.
I'll second just a question. What is 111F?
So 111F is the equivalent of workers' comp.
Okay.
Police and fire in Massachusetts, for historical reasons, are not included in the workers' comp
Workers'
program.
comp. Okay.
And so 111F is, I believe it's a section, I don't know the particular chapter, but it's a section of that particular chapter that covers the liabilities of cities and towns for injuries that the police and fire employees suffer. But officially, the board has to say, yes, this is a legitimate on-the-job injury and needs to be covered by the town. In this case, what it means is that the medical bills and such will be sent to Maya, or not Maya, but
Cabot risk.
pardon?
Cabot risk.
Cabot, right.
That's
Cover
what
risk,
we do.
yeah. We have separate policies, just like we have a workers' comp
Yeah.
policy, we have a police and fire accident policy.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
We also had, in essence, not a 111F claim. We did have an injury report for Officer Andrew Brzezinski. There are no medical bills or loss of time, simply an injury report, and that will be in the personnel file. Plymouth County Advisory Board, a reminder that Troy, you'll need to be there for the meeting on December 5th. The executive board meets at 6 and the regular meeting's at 7. I put a copy of the notice in your.
I was hoping to go down on the 14th when they discuss the purchasing of the property, but I'm not gonna be able to make that
Well,
one.
they'll
but I
be
will
here.
do the
They'll be here on the 14th on Thursday.
Yeah.
I know that Joe Pierce plans on being here just to make sure.
What time?
I believe it's starting at 5. I'll look.
Because I gotta be over at South Shore Hospital at 3 o'clock, so I'm not sure I'll be able to make it back.
Okay, I'll get the time for you.
I can
Okay.
possibly
Well,
go, but I'm not the alternate.
But for the November 14th meeting, that's a Plymouth County Commissioners meeting.
Okay.
They're simply holding the formal public hearing they have
Okay.
to
Yeah.
if they want to transfer land out of Plymouth
All
County.
right, so there's nothing that we have to
No,
No.
testify for.
no. I ran to the commissioners and to Joe and say, if there's a need, I'll be here. But I don't plan on being here just to show up.
Okay.
And there's no need for the board to be here.
Okay.
The December 5th meeting is the big, 27-town
Okay.
grouping meeting.
All the wheels are turning.
Okay. I definitely can't make that when I have school committee that night.
On Posset Pond study for flow conditions, the Department of Environmental Protection has provided a waiver to the city of Brockton for various stipulations in the most recent administrative consent order, so the city can study flow conditions in Mount Posset. When I went over the work plan back, it's now a year and a half, 2 years ago, that was one of the things they were going to try and do, was in fact they wanted to run, not simulations because they're running, it's the real thing, but they wanted to see what would happen if we did X, Y, and Z. And this would be a combination of diversions and not allowing water down Stump Brook to see what would happen with the flows between the two ponds and such. The thing is, their actions might be contradictory to what's in the actual administrative consent order about what they're supposed to be doing or not doing. So they went to DEP and said, can you grant us a waiver to allow us to do these things as part of this particular program? DEP said yes. They have to notify DEP, I think, 5 days in advance, things like that. What I'd like them to do, I'd like to have the board support is send a note to DEP saying, I'm not objecting to any of this. I think it's not material in terms of the health of the ponds because it's not a multi-month program or something like that. But I want the town to be notified, both Hanson and Halifax, because inevitably we'll get phone calls because people take very explicit notice of which way is the water going, and then somebody say, well, wait a minute, it's the wrong month, they can't be doing this. And, you know, at least our office and other offices will have that information and be able to respond. But we'll only know if somebody tells us. So I'd like to, if the board would
I'd make a
support that.
motion to
Yeah.
send a letter to DEP asking for
I'll
notification.
second that. I'd also like to, all in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to add that we send a request that we send a letter to the new mayor and let him know the efforts that we're making to trying to reach some conciliation on the ponds, what's going on. I mean, he just got elected, so I think it'd be nice to send us a letter of congratulations to him at the same time, let him know that this is what we've been going through.
I can do that, yeah. Comcast with Internet Essentials, I'm not trying to run an advertisement here. We did get a letter from Comcast. I didn't know they even had this program, but they do, I guess, offer sort of a low-grade internet option, basically about $10 per month plus tax. It's called Internet Essentials. So that folks who have certain income limitations, so they might be on government assistance of one way or another, are eligible to participate in that. I have given the information to the Veterans Agent, the Council on Aging, the Housing Authority, in case they have clients who might be eligible for the program.
If it's a letter that you have, would you mind sending it to the library too?
I can do
Just so
that
she
too.
could
Sure.
post it there.
Yeah. Pope's Tavern roof, we had a report from Scott Returner. It's in decay. I guess there are soft places,
Still.
and he's actually had to close off a room up on the second floor.
Well, they had some shingles blow off that rooftop that last storm that we had. They
That
had a
might be
lot
part of the
shingles flying.
And I notified the capital plan committee, obviously the building committee knows about it, the rooms have been blocked off. But for roof work of that extent, they're gonna need an engineer or architect. Again, it's more for your information, is that, you know, the building committee has it. They do have some money set aside for building repairs for the building. We had that money set aside even before we were looking at doing the expansion renovation. So my hope is they might make use of that.
Okay.
We had talked, so the finance committee members had indicated interest in, you know, because obviously they're interested in recruiting people for both the finance committee, but for other committees also, including wage and personnel, that we try and put together a PSA, public service announcement that might be run as part of the programming on the channel, cable access channels. The idea would be, and you could try filming that before the joint meeting, not so much joint meeting, but it's a finance committee meeting that selectmen are attending next Monday about the 2021 budget, is to put together that PSA, film it before the meeting begins with one or more members of the board of selectmen, one or more members. And Melinda Tarsi said she would be interested in doing it.
Okay.
So, you know, somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes before the regular meeting time at 7. So 6:30, 6:45, if one or more of you can come in. And we can have people sit here with Melinda or wherever else in the finance committee and do a 60-second spot.
What day do you want that?
That's going to be on Monday night, the 18th. So the regular finance committee meetings at 7, and one I'm asking if the board could come in at 6:30 or 6:45.
Okay.
All right.
15 not yet. Is it 8:15 is our next one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a little time here. Marijuana, we'll talk about that later with Bud's Goods. Ambulance abatements for October 2019, the amount is $75,872.75.
I would move $75,872.75 for the abatements for October 2019.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For the grievance settlement with the patrol officer, we finally, I think, got and everything checked off, and there are 2 copies of the memorandum of agreement for the board to approve and sign.
All signatures?
I got Tom's already, so yes, if you could, the 2 of you could agree and sign tonight.
I would move that we sign the contract for the police association, sell the grievance.
This is on the question of
Second.
start dates.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see Ted Broderick a little bit later tonight about possibly being.
Oh, I see it now.
he's being a responsible person, and making sure he's here on time. Bow Street acceptance of the parcel, we voted this at town meeting. After town meeting, town council reviewed the history of the property, and because 2 estates would have to be probated, and the result would have to be that Paula Long, who's been paying the bills all this time, and I guess is a descendant of the folks whose wills would have to be probated, and she's the one who asked the town to accept the parcel, the probate would have to show that she was a sole owner after all the probates. But Attorney Mayo feels that the lowest cost option for everyone is for the property, in fact, to go through tax title. That would avoid Ms. Long or the town from paying legal expenses to get the estates probated. The tax title and foreclosure would be less expensive, and Ms. Long would not have to pay anything for this to occur. So my plan would be to contact Ms. Long, and as much as I know that she would like not to get tax bills, to say to her, look, just ignore them. We'll just go through the procedure in the next couple of years.
So is this saving legal fees?
Yes. I mean, my hope was, if she had clear title to it, which she doesn't right now, then we'd just do the deed and then it would be moved over and that
It
would be
would
set.
cost her money for the lawyer and cost the town as well.
The one question I had, does she own any other property in town?
I don't know. This is the only parcel she asked for the town to
Okay.
take on.
Just that the town be aware that this is an agreement between us, so that, like, if she goes for a building permit or something, that she's able to get the permit, knowing that she's behind.
She won't be able to get a building permit because she'll owe the back taxes. The bills are going to continue to be
I
issued.
mean, on a different property.
No.
Oh,
Well, it still would have.
well, it's just really going to depend on whether she's passed back taxes or not. I understand what you're saying. So, well, she lives up in Maine.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking if
Yeah.
she had other property.
Yeah. There,
Talent Bank?
Town bank form, we did get a town bank form from Drew McGinley, who's interested in serving on the finance committee even before we got the PSA done. I forwarded to the finance committee. They may be able to meet with him next Monday, and maybe if that happens, we can see him on the 26th of December 2019.
Okay.
Pasture Lane. Pasture Lane's one of the streets that the planning board had kept a parcel from being developed in order to ensure the infrastructure would be completed. This didn't work out. What happened is the parcel was the least valuable parcel of the ones that were there. And so the original developer didn't do anything with it, didn't finish the infrastructure on the road work. He sold that and all the responsibilities to somebody else who I think didn't quite realize what they were getting into, and still nothing's happened. The residents met with the planning board back last Thursday. They're pretty much tipped off at the whole situation because the road work's not done and they don't see any chance of anything happening. I'd like to at least have Attorney Mayo take a look, see if there's anything the town can do to force the issue. I think long-term, if we can't, we may need to take over the whole, and,
All the parcel?
well, the parcel that remains, and then the street, and get the road work
Well,
done.
there's no accessibility to the place property, is there?
Yeah, for Pasture Lane, the parcel for Pasture Lane that we're talking about, if you're right at the entrance, it's just on the right-hand side. It's a very weirdly shaped parcel. I think it's one of the reasons why it's less developable. As it is, the original developer sold it, I think it was $25,000.
Yeah, I think that's what we said.
To the street person, but nothing's happened. So, I mean, the only way, it may be, unless Larry can find a way of forcing the issue, is the town just take it by eminent domain, both the parcel, with the hope maybe of salvaging something from it and taking the road on and getting the road work done, which is not going to be inexpensive.
Do we really want to do that?
Well, you have residents who, we always talk about people who, whether they're on private roads or they're on dirt streets or whatever, they pay taxes too. Well, I think they bought those properties with the assumption that this development was going to be completed. And it was a town's decision to make as to how to ensure that the road work was going to get done. It didn't work out, it's not their fault, it's the town's fault. And I think I'm not saying we have to do it, I'm just simply, I think you can make a case for it being the town's responsibility and the town should be handling the matter. I mean, that's why I want to work with Larry first and see if there's a legal way.
Excuse me.
I think it makes sense to ask Larry what our options are.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Do you need to take a minute?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Gatra and Bat, my colleague in Plimpton,
We got public service people, so they can give me CPR if necessary.
Liz Dennehy contacted me about the possibility of Plimpton Halifax working with BAT on mini bus service. I know the town's looked at this before, both with both of the regional transit agencies, and we haven't received a lot of interest. I can check with BAT again. I don't see a downside. What happens is that the money that the town is assessed for the MBTA service is instead sent to one of the regional transit agencies. We don't have to then pay MBTA on top of that. So I see no harm in checking unless the board.
Well, the reason they turned us down in the first place is that we didn't have enough population per numbers
But
to require that.
that may be interested because, or Gatra may be interested either way. That because Gatra's been basically, as far as I can see, eating their lunch. Gatra is greater Attleboro. You've got that coming all the way out here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they go to Pembroke right now.
Well, they go to Plymouth, they go to Pembroke, they go to Carver.
If that has an interest in trying to sort of maintain its geographic area, that protects it, then they might be interested in doing something with Plimpton and Halifax. So if not, Gatra might be interested.
I understand that Tom talked to Dennehy.
I'll talk to Liz and then talk to BAT and see if there's in fact interest.
Okay.
OPEB policy, talked to the board about this a couple of weeks ago. The idea of the policy is that making a commitment, however informal, shows a degree of seriousness that the actuaries like when they're trying to evaluate our liabilities for OPEB. OPEB is our other post-employment benefits, which is generally the health insurance for our retirees. If the town wanted to do a policy, it could commit to increasing its OPEB contribution by $5,000 per year. Right now, I believe we're at $35,000 or $36,000. And we made at least $1,000 more contribution the year we're now, is to bump that up a little bit. But the other piece, and it's a little bit farther down the line, would be that once our retirement assessment is fully funded, in the sense of the Plymouth County retirement system is fully funded, which is maybe, let's say, 2030 if the schedules follow, that the difference between our maintenance payments to continue to fully fund the retirement system and what we have been paying would be then devoted to the OPEB. And then that would be eventually paid down too.
And this is a state standard that we have to do this.
There's no standard. What had happened during the last few years is that first that the accounting firms and the bond rating agencies were saying, well, you have this liability, just like you have the retirement liability that you haven't fully paid up yet. You have this liability of paying health insurance for retirees for the next 50 years. We want you to calculate what that's going to be. Oh, then a couple of years later, we want you to put it on the balance sheet so that it shows as a liability because we want to measure your liabilities versus other organizations. There's no state mandate, there's no state policy that says by a certain date that you need to be fully funded for OPEB or even by percentage or anything like that. But there's a couple of things. One is we're competing with other communities in terms of our bond rating as to whether we're in fact making progress in paying down our OPEB. And then second, just in terms of the balance sheet, if we are making that commitment, then our liabilities are less, which makes our balance sheet look better.
Just look better, it doesn't say it's better.
Right. And well, it depends on how you want to read it. And number three is, you're just pointing out, is there a time, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road where the state in its infinite wisdom says, oh, you need to be on schedule, just like for the retirement system. Well, if you're already ahead, if you're already paying it down, you've already got a schedule, and maybe that's, you're not in panic mode, but suddenly you need to start putting more and more money in.
Okay. Gordon?
The only thing that, seeing the infrastructure of the roads and everything in town, I would think it would be wise at that point in 2030 that we look at this commitment and ask if that's really what we should be doing, or if we should be working to improve the roads with some of that money, because it is a decent sum of
Oh,
money
yeah,
every
it
year.
will be, yeah. And the policy, in fact, says this is all dependent on the town's financial situation. I mean, the commitment is informal, it's not, you know, it's not, I mean, even town meeting voting wouldn't change that, because what one town meeting does, another town meeting can then reverse. So it's certainly, here's what we're hoping to do is what it is.
Okay, I would move your 2 points here. Increasing the OPEB liability to $5,000 per year, and once the retirement fund is fully funded, the difference between the payment necessary to maintain it at the level and the amount that was appropriated in the year just before that would be sent to the OPEB trust each year until it was fully funded.
This should be good after my time. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
And you have an 8:15.
We do?
You do.
They said. Gentlemen?
And the chiefs have been sitting patiently.
Is that the plural, chiefs?
It sounds like all those MASH episodes, major.
Yeah, exactly. So it's my pleasure to come here in front of the board here tonight to recommend Edward Broderick at 525 Thompson Street, the appointment as a special police officer. Ted is a lifelong resident of Halifax. He's got over 34 years of law enforcement experience. He was first employed as a special officer in Halifax in 1984. That's a long time ago. He then began working
As long as you might think.
yeah, he then began work as a police officer in Plimpton in '86. He returned to Halifax, where he rose through the ranks until in 2013 he was named chief of police. It is somewhat fitting that his career in law enforcement has come like in a full
Full
circle,
circle.
and he's here today to request to be appointed as special police officer. Ted is will be a welcome addition to the department. Not only his knowledge of law enforcement, but also of the town residents, and he'll be a great resource for myself and for other members of the department. So I would highly recommend him.
So basically what we're doing here is he was losing his memories, wants to refresh what it was like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's doing.
His family wants him out of the house.
Does that may have something to do with it? No, I'm grateful for the opportunity to do this. I wish I didn't have to. Kind of the background, my wife lost her job a couple weeks ago.
Oh, how's she doing?
Unexpectedly, and it's, I need to augment, I need to get a job again, go back to work. But, no, this kind of works out perfectly because it's flexible and it fits in with everything else, and, you know, I like the environment. I always like the environment, so.
Well, on that other note, I wish her well. I hope things.
Oh, well, yeah, she'll be okay. It's,
Well, she's married to you.
you know, those things sometimes are a blessing in disguise, so
Yeah.
that's kind of how we're looking at it.
Is that a motion?
I would move the approval.
Are you sure now?
I mean, he showed up here tonight, and he knows what he's getting
He
into.
was early.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, gentlemen.
Chief?
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night. Let you guys get
Good
about
night.
business.
See you guys again.
Nice to see you.
Have we changed at all?
Thanks, Charlie. We all change. It's an evolution, you know, it's
Come
an
on.
ongoing process.
Come on, I'm fishing here. Come on.
We all look great still.
Have a good night.
Walmart delivery hours. The Selectmen's office had received an anonymous complaint concerning deliveries to Walmart before 8 a.m., which is the earliest hour allowed under the site plan stipulations approved by the planning board a number of years ago. The complaint was due to something that happened yesterday morning. We've had previous complaints. I had gone down to Walmart, hand delivered a letter down there saying obviously that there was a problem, and they said they were going to get it resolved. It may or may not have happened. I don't know why somebody would have called to complain about it otherwise.
Yeah, I talked to the manager down there a couple of times about this. And his claim is that not all those trucks are Walmarts. Those are some truckers that need some place for overnight sleep, and then sometime pull in there and have the motors running, you know, overnight to keep themselves warm.
Well, and I mentioned that to the complainant, but the complainant insisted that he heard at the actual truck, backing into the delivery bay and unloading there, so.
Okay, did he give a time and place for it?
It was, well, we've been, I think he said it was like at 5 a.m. on Monday morning.
Okay,
So, my plan would be not just simply, since it's all alleged, we don't have any hard evidence, it's just an anonymous complaint, to send a certified letter this time to Walmart to say, we're still getting these complaints, here's where the stipulation is, please make sure that you're in compliance with the stipulation. And then I'd be talking with Rob and the police chief about what enforcement measures we could do. I think the other thing is, we don't have, it's not as if any of us have the resources to just sit there, whether it's a police vehicle or wherever, to just sit there any number of mornings and wait to see if something happens.
So, Troy, what you said about the trucks coming in there and just parking there, is that against that, or is it just the actual delivery aspect?
Unless they can catch the person and charge them with trespassing, illegal parking on their property, because the only thing that we can do is disturbing the peace. If in fact they are running the motors at that time of morning or
There's also a
earlier.
limit, I think there's a state regulation or state law about running a motor.
For so many minutes, if you can even say.
I think it's 5.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, yeah, I understand people pulling in,
Right.
trying to get sleep because they're limited by the number of hours that they can drive too, so.
And they do it all over. I mean, it's a common practice. You see it done
That's
all
why you
the
go to
time.
truck stops to.
Yeah. I don't know if there's many around here
No,
anymore.
But, what I would do, once that happens, I may, in essence, reach out to people in the area to say, look, if you do have a complaint, and this is after talking to the police chief about, then we need a faster way of being notified about it than 24 hours later. And work with the chief about that.
Well, we have 24-hour dispatch service. They could call the police department and let them know, at least, and then if it's documented at such time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not asking the department to enforce it, I'm asking them to observe and just.
Noted.
Right. On Comcast with their bill explanation, since I still haven't heard anything from them, I went back to look at our licensing agreement and found a section regarding that the license holder, meaning Comcast, has to promptly submit to the town any information in such form and contain such information as is reasonably requested by the issuing authority. So what I'm planning on doing is I'll send a follow-up note to Comcast basically saying this and saying, hey, give us a real answer rather than we just don't do this, for the detail that Tom would like to see on the bills. We'll see where that gets us.
Okay.
All right.
Zoning articles, we're having a meeting on Tuesday 19th at 7 p.m. here in the meeting room. This is to try and get some momentum about working on the multifamily sections of the zoning laws. This is not a redo of the whole thing.
The whole thing is a spot check.
Right. So, and the idea is for those interested parties to meet with land use council and try and provide some input. Which direction does the town want to go? And if given that, then she can come back a few weeks later and say, okay, if you want to go in this direction, here's some recommended changes. If you want to go in this direction, here's some recommended changes. With the idea that eventually late winter, let's say February, early March, we can then have a bylaw hearing, we can have public forums before that, but formally we have to have that hearing. We can get comments from the public. If there are other changes necessary on that subject after the hearing, then that still gives the planning board time to hold a second public hearing and bring all that to the town meeting. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday with that. Got a couple of things.
Yeah,
Do you have anything else?
got a road opening that we got reaffirmed.
Yep, affirmed.
The trench permit required for building inspector, we have Columbia Gas with 995. Want to excavate a 4x6 road cut tie-in, 4x10 road cut trench, install new gas service on 24th Avenue. We earlier granted this, we just had to reaffirm it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's all I have. Oh, I just need some signatures, but, that's all I have.
Okay, so I'd recommend the board hold a 5-minute recess till 8:30 for a official appointment.
Okay, we're back in session at this time. We have a meeting at this time with Bud, considering marijuana growing facility in town of Halifax.
Yes.
So to catch up, just, you all had met with Greg earlier, several weeks ago. In between, we had a town meeting where there were articles presented at town meeting, one of which would have allowed marijuana facilities in the commercial zone. That was passed over. Also, another one that was by petition that would have greatly eliminated either all or almost all of the parcels in the industrial area from being allowed to have a marijuana facility. And I know that Greg wanted to come back to the board and talk a little bit more, and I think the board wanted to talk with Greg about where we would want to go on from here, given that there seems to be differing opinions, I mean right here in this room, but in the town, about whether the town continues to be interested in having marijuana facilities here in Halifax. So the idea was for him to come back, talk with the board about that. He had submitted a host community agreement a couple of weeks ago. I forwarded that to town council. Town council viewed it very favorably. He thinks that there may be a couple of places that need to be tweaked simply to bring it into the better understanding based on the guidances from the Cannabis Control Commission, but he doesn't see that as a significant hurdle at all. So in terms of the HCA itself, councils would say outside of those tweaks is fine with it. If everybody would want to go forward, the next step would in fact be to hold some sort of public forum, public hearing. What's happened since we did the one with Four Daughters is that the Cannabis Control Commission has formalized that process in that as part of the submission to the state that a public forum or public hearing is required. And one we held for Four Daughters was an informal one in the sense of it wasn't specifically required. The board held it back before the board approved the HCA in order to gain public input. And what one this time could do is both deal with the HCA and get the viewpoints of the town, but also qualify for as part of the state licensing process. So it would be able to handle both things. But the idea now is to see how much interest there is in fact in moving forward.
So, good evening, my name is Alex Mason, president of Bud's Goods and Provisions. I'm here before you again sort of to discuss an outdoor seasonal grow operation off of River Street, which is a 47-acre parcel of land. This evening, I brought my counsel here to help represent me with any legal guidance that we may discuss this evening. I also brought copies of the host community agreements if you
They have them.
We have
them. What we did is we looked at the Four Daughters host community agreement, we saw what they proposed, and we felt like it was only right for us to propose exactly the same thing. And so town council, there has been some new guidance from the state within the past week.
If you can call it that.
Yeah, I mean, that changes on a weekly basis, at least once. But ultimately, I think our proposal for the host community agreement is very favorable to the community. And I think it's even more favorable because what we're proposing is very scalable for the community. Meaning, we could continue to grow as a business here in Halifax exponentially relatively to what a greenhouse operator or an indoor cultivator could propose. Scaling outdoor operations is much easier and more financially achievable. And the other side of what we're proposing is we're not an impact onto the community full year. This is a seasonal business. So we could produce tax revenues for the community that may appear at the scale of an annual indoor cultivation facility but within a shorter period of time. And I think that's really valuable for the community to understand that what we're really proposing is a 6-month business that can produce revenues that a whole year business probably couldn't do. That's- And I took your advice about timelines and things like that, and so I did update our presentations to reflect as such and the scale at which we roll out our plan. And so the proposal would really be to do a phase 1, which is a 100,000 square foot outdoor operation, and that would ideally kick off in 2021 versus 2020, which we had originally discussed. With regards to the fencing concerns that were brought up previously, ideally I'd still like to go for a variance to get a higher fence than 6 feet. Not that I think that won't be sufficient enough from a security basis, and our security consultant agrees.
Were we correct in doing it?
No.
Okay, well, that's why I asked you, because I know there was
What was the
something that you had mentioned.
Troy asked whether they were correct about pointing out the 6 feet. The thing, there's this section in the general laws about spike fences, that you can't normally have a fence greater than 6 feet. However, it's there for spike fences in the sense of you can't have a fence of 8 or 9 feet if its purpose is in fact to, in essence, annoy the neighbors, per se. However, for security reasons and such, it's perfectly permissible to have a fence that's greater than 6 feet in height. Now, you know, if all this moves forward, eventually you go to site plan with the planning board, and the fence is part of it, and, you know, it's all in the site plan, but the state law that's commonly cited by, and this isn't just for this, but just in general by people, is, you know, you can't have a fence more than 6 feet high because it'd be a spike fence, but you can't. There's, you know, the law is very specific about that, so it's certainly doable under the state law.
And see, my remembrance of it is that you can't have a fence high enough to block off a percentage view, sunlight, or anything that might affect your neighbor's property in a negative way.
That's become a nuisance.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, one of the attractive parts about this property for us is it really is away from anybody. You know, so for the fence to be a nuisance is probably highly unlikely unless someone is actively seeking out to
Well,
make it a
it could
nuisance.
be a nuisance if somebody trying to break in. They got to climb in much higher.
That is true. That is true. It could be a nuisance, but
Could tunnel it under.
and something else I wanted to bring up from a security standpoint, I know there were concerns about plant theft and things like that. One of the beauties of an outdoor cultivation is there's only a 2-week window where it actually is worth, not even worth, but that the plant have fruits to sort of take. And so that creates a very easy window to monitor. Anything sooner than that would be valueless to really capture. It would be like, you know, taking an unripe fruit off a tree. You're not really getting anything from it. It's unripe, it's not ready. And then secondly, ultimately, these are fairly large bushes. It's not the
6 feet or better.
you know, well, an outdoor cultivation, these plants could get up to 8 feet tall. And so I find it to be a little challenging for someone to get over a 6-foot fence with an 8-foot tree. And even if they do that, they've now ruined the crop on the tree, because in cannabis there's a whole curing, drying process before it's even, it would be like stealing grapes and thinking you stole wine. You know, it really, you're defeating the purpose and you're ruining the plant. But even if you did do that without knowing it and you stole a plant, you know, we're proposing growing 100,000 square feet outdoor, which is about 2.2 acres. I mean, one tree is a very limited amount of product. I'm not trying to justify the value of theft here. I'm just trying to say that it's not as large of a concern as many may think of. What is valuable is these indoor facilities that have oil and post-production products, which is a much more condensed, higher value product. As a thief, the goal is smallest item, highest value, in my
To be
opinion.
honest with you, only bring up thievery as much as it involves our police department, our public workers to investigate and do things of that nature. It's really on your shoulders whether or not you want
course.
to expose yourself to that type of possibility of something happening. I got a lot from the last discussion we had, and I don't really have any major issues. Those are ones of the fence and the security were my biggest concerns. My big thing is that you need to go before our town at a meeting and convince those people that it's going to be some beneficial to the town, and it's not going to bring unsavory characters or unwanted traffic or anything else going to changes. Those are the concerns that a lot of people have that have come to me as stated.
There'd be no sales.
No sales here,
It'd be harvested, taken to a facility.
post-production.
How often would there be trucks or anything of that nature going back and forth across the roads?
Not very often. I mean, yes, we would have employees on a daily basis coming in and out, but in terms of large trucks, really only at the end of the harvest to take everything away. And I think we would have an influx of trucks in the beginning, early first week or two in May, and then the last 2 weeks in October. But besides those two upticks in abnormal activity, I don't think you would see anything abnormal besides that. The comparison of doing outdoor, it's much less intensive because you ultimately leave a lot up to fate, right? That's the risk, but that's the value. All we're looking for is an opportunity to present our case in front of the community. Look, I don't want to be in a community where residents don't want me either, because that would just mean headache upon
Well, you're
headache.
always going to have a certain percentage.
Right.
So,
But I would, back to the plants and the security, the moment the plant gets over 6 inches tall, it is tagged with a unique RFID tag. And every day that tag is scanned, monitored. How much did that plant grow? How much water did it absorb? We will be able to track over 100,000 plants in this field, if more potentially. So,
You have to account for every one of them, too.
you have to account for every one of
Cannabis
them.
Control Commission.
But really, the large influx would be towards the end of the harvest, where we would take everything down, we would load it up, and then take it to our facility in Lakeville where we would process it. The other thing I want to note is this property is having difficulty finding
purchaser.
that too, but to percolate the ground for septic. We're not proposing a fixed. What we're proposing is a barn, like modern day barn, where we would store our tools and tractors and things like that. But we would have porta potties for our employees during the season, but we wouldn't need to tap into a septic system or anything of that nature because it's a seasonal business. Utilizing this plot of land, which currently cannot be utilized. And I think that's a huge, huge value that I recently stumbled across, learning a negative, which is, hey, there's really no way we could find percolation here. But the positive is, look, we're doing an outdoor grow, we really don't need it.
Well, you would be taking on a big responsibility, but that's yours because that land floods.
Yes, we do know. We've mapped out the floodplain in there. Ultimately, we've discussed potentially going at this as an agricultural use, which floodplains don't abide by.
By
It would be worth, from a business perspective, to still take that risk, because if we lose that crop, it's okay. If we gain that crop, it's worth it. But what we're proposing, for starters, is 100,000 square feet. We have to do that correctly. We need to prove that to the community before we can expand. And that's really what I'm seeking approval or a host community agreement for, which is the 100,000 square foot project.
So I heard from some of the residents that live down there, and they're not necessarily in favor of an outdoor facility. They weren't necessarily in favor of the indoor facility either, but they felt more secure with that. So I think you'll see some residents come to the meeting and speak out about that.
And we'll notify all of our abutters and abutters of abutters for that meeting and address any of their concerns. Look, at the end of the day, I could understand their perspective. They don't want to live near a large marijuana field. And if you look at what we're proposing, we would leave boundaries to sort of distance ourselves from those residents to begin with. We have 47 acres of land. We could stay away from the boundary so we're not right up against their boundary. There's a lot of space here for us to play, and we can grow away from them. You know, we could work with the planning board to say, look, this is the boundary, so we're 500 feet away from the residence line, or something to that nature. We're very flexible, we have plenty of space. We're 47 acres, and all we're looking for is 2.
Are you prepared to make a decision on this night? Would you rather have Tom here, or?
I don't think
We set
Tom's
up a
made it
date for a
to,
hearing.
Tom's
Well,
avoiding me.
yes. Well, the idea would be the next step, but you don't have to make a decision tonight about approving an HCA or anything like that. What next step probably would be is to have that public forum, public hearing. That's why I was talking about the dates, like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th of December. And move the process along, get the input from the public, and then come back to you all, and you all could then make a decision whether you want to do the
Would
HCA
this
or not.
deter, would this deter the state from issuing a license if the hearing is not done on a timely basis?
Well, yeah, there's,
So you have 6 months once you conduct your community outreach meeting, where it has a 6-month expiration period to it before you could submit it to the
The
state.
state.
We've, you know, in Worcester, which is our first retail location that we're opening, we actually had to do it twice because the city of Worcester demanded that we do it for our application. Then they took over 6 months to approve. So we had to do it again. That's not, it is what it is. I enjoy talking to people about cannabis.
Really?
Yeah, if you haven't been able to tell.
I'm learning. By the way, disclosure, I'm 76 years old, I never had smoked marijuana or touched it, so,
So you and I are in the same boat.
yeah. I was the beer generation, before that.
I was the designated driver. I drove everybody home.
The interesting thing about Halifax, I go back to when Howard Waterman was chief, and when we would leave from Bryantville, underaged, our first stop was Haywood's, and if certain people were home, you get the beer and go home. If not, we'd go to Plimpton, and then to Carver, and with all those fields, we went to Rochester.
Then you went in the middle of the lake with the boat and drank beer. Yeah, I remember Chief Waterman. It was around then.
I do think what we're proposing is really good for the community. I really wholeheartedly believe our proposal is utilizing a piece of land that's really not going to get utilized any other way.
All right. Why don't we look at it this way? Why don't we meet
we meet the 26th,
26.
but he has to give sufficient
I
notice
have
to
to
the
give 2
abutters.
weeks' notice to the abutters.
So that's that's why I was suggesting having the meeting the first week of December, so he would have the 2 weeks' notice.
Okay.
The only thing is we need, if the board's going to, the board should either say it's going to do it on its off Tuesday, or it's going to do the interviews with the council agent.
Well, I don't have any problem doing it on the off
in terms of
Tuesday. It's up
dates,
to you, though. You got all those meetings.
We're still in flux a little bit because we've got other things going on. So, or is the 2nd, 3rd, and/or 4th good for you, or any particular of those
The
3 days?
second is, I'm not available on the
Okay.
second, but the 3rd or 4th, I'm just gonna quickly
Just make sure.
double check that, but The 3rd or 4th are great for me.
So if the board would like to, what we can do is say the board will hold its interviews on the 3rd and then do this on the 4th, or vice
Mr.
versa.
Garen, I think, wants the 4th.
Well, we can do it on the 3rd. And you can carry it forward on the 4th, on the hearing?
Well, the idea would be one night you're going to be doing council on aging director interviews, another night you'll be doing this.
Okay.
So which night would you like to do which?
The 3rd, well, we've been working this council on aging thing. I think we'd like to do that on the 3rd, do that first, then do theirs on the 4th.
Okay.
4th.
Is that okay with you, Gordon?
It is, I have negotiations that day, so.
What time?
Is that with
just
your, is
trying
that
to
with
find
your
out
spouse, or is that with?
No, those
Just
negotiations
give,
will,
if it's about that, don't.
those are
Just
lose-lose
give in and
negotiations.
open up your calendar.
Sorry, I have to open up the right email program for the school committee. They're all different.
That really changes anything. Whatever day you're going to be upstairs, there'll be a train set up. We have holidays in Halifax on the 14th, which is the annual winter celebration here in Halifax. And one of the things that happens up in the Great Hall is we have this large G-gauge rail race set. That'll be, won't be up, it probably won't be up and running. The folks will put
Wow.
it together.
He's responsible.
Yeah, I was responsible.
What day are you talking that I need to be here?
The 3rd or the 4th, we're still trying to figure out what.
And we would hold
I
it
lose stuff.
upstairs.
Yes, because that's a larger room than downstairs.
We're looking at the 4th, hopefully.
We'll notify everyone.
So the
Yes.
4th.
in the community.
So 7 o'clock on the 4th?
Yes. So are you saying your negotiations are then?
No, they're earlier.
Okay. So if we can,
I
so,
believe there's a publication in the local newspaper requirement.
Yes, we will handle,
Yeah.
we've done multiple community outreach meetings.
Bless you.
Bless you.
so what we'll do is there'll be a special board of selectmen meeting combined with the forum for December 4th, starting at 7 PM up in the Great Hall.
That's all I ask. Just ask for the opportunity.
Give an opportunity to spin its men.
I mean, if you need a screen, we can provide a screen. I always recommend if somebody's doing an AV presentation of some sort, they bring their own projector and computer,
Okay,
simply because you'll know that those things work together.
right.
But I'm glad you have a local attorney. I mean, he at least knows the territory around.
Well, when I was walking the site a month and a half ago, I looked to my left and I said, okay, the solar field's here. How did it get here? You must have hired a good attorney. And that's how I found out.
Yeah, he was convincing. He lit up our lives.
I do have to say that the planning board and the fire chief in particular was extremely helpful and accommodating. It was a pleasure actually working with them.
We're here to serve, and not to be walked on.
Fair, it's fair.
All you want is somebody to respect you, to be honest. Keep it away out of me. So you don't want to hear it, don't ask.
So in the meantime, if you need any assistance, you need more information or something.
I'll have Greg reach out in the morning and we'll start coordinating.
Or you mean the Frenchman?
The gentleman you didn't find to be fun last time. I was like, those are great.
Well, comedy is hard, what can I say?
It takes a genius to be comical. So, well,
I
thank you
guess that
so
leaves me out.
No, you should be a very smart man. Thank you everybody for your time, I appreciate it, and we will orchestrate for the 4th. Thank you very much.
Be careful driving out there.
Same to you.
It's a jungle.
PM, is there
Really
any-
good to see you again.
Always a pleasure.
Nice to see you. Charlie, good night.
You're welcome. Hopefully I'll never need your services, but if I do, I know where to go.
Well, let me tell you, I started practicing in 1970, and by 1974, I said, I'm not doing any more criminal. And by 1975,
Whoa. Are you saying that I'm...
I'm not doing any more domestics.
I'll give you a card.
I just do civil now. I don't do court anymore.
Wow, you took all the fun stuff out.
Court is such a waste of time. Just awful.
Well, the clerk magistrate's always fun.
Again, thank you very much.
PM, is
Drive
there any-
safely.
Is there anything else that needs to come before the board?
No, I
I'll move that we adjourn, as you know.
Members
had-
all set?
You had on the agenda
Oh, yeah,
an executive at the top.
trying to think of, is there any necessity for doing any of those things? So we had it,
Here's the information
we
change.
already dealt with the control officers, that's done.
Any change on that top one?
On Waterman, no, nothing. And then on the mixed unit, I'll talk to the board about that on the 26th.
Oh, yes. Okay. And the other one you can't do.
Well, there's nothing, nothing in it.
Well, thank
I
you for
haven't got
coming
any
out in
reports
this
to say anything
dreary
about.
weather.
Yeah.
Thanks, John, we're adjourning.
Oh, we need
Second.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Andrews.